The 2026 Georgia tax appeal season is well underway, but there are some important updates I wanted to share with you. Many of you already know about my book, Tax Freeze: How to File and Win Property Tax Appeals in Georgia. But what you might not know is that I made a revision for 2026. The book is the basis of what I teach on this channel. It's not required that you buy it, but I consider it foundational knowledge if you are serious about your tax appeals. I was forced to learn how to do tax appeals out of sheer financial desperation in the 20 teens and have continued doing them to this day. So far, I've been involved with nearly 300 tax appeals across 7 Georgia counties. They include appeals in the largest metro Atlanta counties to appeals in small rural counties. I also have a network of property owners from 11 additional counties who have shared their appeal experiences with me. Specifically, the revision I made over a month ago relates to updated language as it relates to appeal to Superior Court stage and the 30-day notice of appeal. This change came from language found in 2025's HB 581 that I missed. This is what happens when you try to update a book as new laws are being rolled out. This is one of the reasons why I'm looking to convert my book to an online course format where I can add and update the most recent information in real time. However, my tax freeze book will continue to exist for a while longer, but it's just too hard to update in real time because year round there is almost always something going on when you take into account all 159 counties in Georgia. I keep in contact with property owners in different counties. I collect appeal information and communicate with different tax assessor offices. I get updates and a lot of great nuggets of information I want to share, but a lot of it don't make it into the book, unfortunately. Even making a video like this takes a great deal of effort. Many of you know that I have an elderly parent with dementia in Florida, so that will always remain in the background as I make videos and maintain this channel in my spare time. I feel a certain responsibility to keep in touch with my viewers of this channel. The next thing I want to remind everyone is that filing the basic appeal form is step number 1. It needs to get done as soon as possible before the deadline. If you don't get it in, you are finished until next year. Because my time is limited here, I am not going to rehash the basic steps. I have a library of videos available you can refer to if you need to get your appeal form filled out. The current plan is to make new videos that expand the conversation, not keep rehashing older material. No one is updating the public. There is no news reporting. Updates are happening behind closed doors in tax assessor offices and not being reported on. The reality is that although the legal framework generally remains the same, I've learned from real life experience that there are lots of stories not getting out into the public domain, and this is what I'm trying to do. There are a lot of things that never get discussed outside of individual appeals at tax assessor offices. Now, one thing I looked at doing last year is doing live streams, but it never happened. The truth is I got stuck on technical and scheduling issues. Another thing is because I only have 200 subscribers, if I do a live stream, how many people will actually show up? The other thing is how much advance notice do people need to attend a live stream? So I'm trying to sort that out. I can't give a lot of advance notice on any live streams, unfortunately. If you want to be part of a future live stream, you should hit that subscribe button so that you can get notified. The next thing I want to address is what property value do you put down on your appeal form? It seems to get people hung up, and I wanted to provide some additional clarification. I tell people to get previous year's sales comps to get an idea what property value should be and make adjustments for the fact that the majority of occupied properties have damage, defects, deferred maintenance, and wear and tear. However, what I tell people isn't always helpful to those folks in rural or outlier areas because there are just not comps and there aren't many similar properties. If you are stuck and running out of time, simply put last year's value on the form. That's it. Don't make it super complicated. It's a starting point. I've even heard people who leave it blank or put $100. Regardless of value, it doesn't take away your right to appeal. However, I know this suggestion makes some people cringe. Some people think it might hurt their credibility if they put a ridiculously low number. There is some truth to that. However, this is the problem. If you don't know and put too high a value, you have shot yourself in the foot. There is nowhere to go if you put a value too high. Believe me, I know. I've made this mistake a few times over the years, and I always get mad at myself when I do this. The fact of the matter is, you need room to move on an appeal. I promise you, I might look ridiculous on paper, but the minute I start communicating with the tax assessors and I explain myself and what I'm after, that lack of credibility goes away very quickly. It's all in how you handle yourself. This is why I make diagrams and charts for the public to learn from. This is why I tell people to get educated. When you are educated and tax assessors know that you are educated on the appeal process, it goes much smoother. Another thing I want to get out there in this update is that I've had successful appeals without ever pulling sales comps of my own. Now, it's not ideal. I am going to make a separate video on this topic, but I will give you a short version now. I do tell people to get sales comps because most people I address are appealing their own properties, whether it's their homes they live in or their rental property. Most property owners in urban and suburban areas can get previous year sales comps fairly easily. This is good for you to know. It puts you in a stronger position. However, I've also worked on appeals where I've had no easy access to sales comps, or I am simply not familiar with the area. In those situations, I flip the script. I ask tax assessors for their evidence and sales comps. In theory, they have the burden of proof. There have been times in a BOE hearing when I looked at tax assessor sales comps and they were unsuitable or out of neighborhood. They were simply mismatches because errors do creep in. Now, I will question or challenge comps or evidence on the spot, and then adjustments can be made. I have a lot more to say about this, but I have limited time in this video. I simply want people to know it is entirely possible to have successful appeals with a 299C without ever having sales comps of your own. You just need to know how to respond and pivot your strategy. Another thing I want to bring up, and we'll have a lot more to say in another video, is that I was recently approached by a large company to recommend their automated tax appeal service. I had no interest in recommending their service. It would take a lot for me to recommend anybody's tax appeal service for the simple reason that a lot of shortcutting and compromises have to be made when you're providing an appeal service to accommodate the general public versus a private owner doing their own appeals with unlimited access to their own property. Now, I have strong feelings regarding these tax appeal services I've seen advertised. That is one reason I started making Georgia tax appeal videos in 2020. I felt property owners were being taken advantage of by the sheer lack of public information. For the last 6 years, my focus has been to educate Georgia property owners how to do their own tax appeals and not get taken advantage of by others. Because of my own lived experiences, I have a personal interest in exposing the secrets property owners don't know regarding tax appeals. It galls on me how much is hidden from the general public. The last thing I want to bring up in this update is I've seen appeals that are successful with the 299C, but then they aren't carried forward correctly due to administrative errors by the tax assessor's office or the tax commissioner. The last couple of days, I was helping a friend with their follow-up of their appeal. I noticed that the previous year appeal didn't get executed. The tax commissioner office picked up the wrong value and sent a bill that was hundreds of dollars higher than it should have been. This occurred because of a couple of reasons. Number one, the property owner had an out-of-date address, but also assumed that the system would take care of him. That small rural county goofed up. And the only reason it got caught is because I have a nose for these things. I don't trust easily. I insist on follow-up. And I also know that 299Cs can get goofed up. And it turned out my instincts were correct. Always follow up when the appeal is completed. You need to look at the next year assessment as well as the property tax bill. Unfortunately, even with a successful appeal, the job is not done. You have to follow up on two fronts, the assessment forms and the property tax bill. Either one of them can get goofed up. Going forward, I hope to make more updates as the 2026 tax appeal season advances. You know the routine. My cat Lexi wants you to swipe that like button so that this video can be shared with other property owners like yourself. The more views this video gets, the more subscribers this channel gets, the larger the tax-free community grows. There is strength in numbers. I will see you in my next video.